I think that Djing can be interesting, but you might notice that I probably felt that something's missing, and is that maybe all DJ sets from other DJs. Not I'm not necessarily talking about me because I am over and I have surpassed everything that I'm about to say here. So eventually it doesn't apply to me. It applies to me in the sense that I have come to these conclusions, but doesn't necessarily represent my doubts or my question because it's a matter of age. And so I thought of this series of videos as sharing my knowledge in terms of personal development, but truly I feel that maybe the sets of all DJs in the world sound great, and that their tracks well get plays, people dance, and in my case there's always a question that echoes louder than any beat, and it goes to the DJ, because if the song resonates with people, it doesn't matter, like it excludes any other factor, because eventually it resonates with people and people enjoy and people dance to it, and whatever happens around is outside of that biorama, or that that capsule that music creates. But there is a question to the DJ, which is the following: is your music touching something deeper than the speakers? And I am a DJ. So I first started as a composer and secondary as a DJ because I started playing sets with the computer. And then when I moved to the iPad, the applications were DJ applications. Like, they were not necessarily a sampler with effects and things. They were more like the logic and the notion of having two turntables with certain things in the center and a crossfader to connect them. But I'm not giving technical tips, because if you think about it, there has always been like certain moral authority from people who have no idea on how to write music about DJing and without musical concepts. And then I don't want to challenge that because I find it a little unfair. And as such, I don't give technical tips for DJs. I do my thing, and if you do your thing good or wrong is up to your professional criterion. I won't talk about EQs, I won't talk about transitions or how to feel a dance floor. It's not okay, it's not important to me. I'm here to invite you, if you are a DJ, into something older, deeper, which is to turn your DJ act into a spiritual practice. And for that, I'd like to share 3 reflections that have transformed my own path as a breaker DJ and a devoted person of my own personal development through music, through experience of how the music can get to a transformative point in your life, point in your perspective, point in your destiny, point in your present, point in your past, that you always can rely to your point. And first, streaming doesn't define you, your intention does. And so we live in an age where algorithms reward you because of something that's fast, because of something that's flashy, because of something that's repeatable. But you need to remember that it is fast because they don't have thousands and thousands of dollars per minute to keep their servers running. They have them per second. And flashy, things are flashy because creativity have come to a point in which everything that is black or white, up or down, left or right, extremely opposites of each other, are considered creativity or interesting. Plus the fact that it cuts a lot of time and repeatable because they need to recover their investment. It's repeatable. Every person enjoy their situation down there, and the other things start to flow. So that's why these rewards come from what's fast, from what's flashy, from what is repeatable. But true music isn't born to be consumed, you know? It is to be it's born to be remembered. I have I have to do something. Wait a second. It's born to be remembered. And so when I compose music, I am a musical composer. I've said this a thousand times, but if you don't know me, I am a musical composer. I've been composing breaker songs for the past 13 years or so, and so I've been in the shadow of commercial releases and things because I was too focused on music to think about something else. And now that I'm a bit more commercial, that are more available on digital stores and the things of 21st century nature, I see other things. And but I studied musical composition. This is going to be my 25th year studying musical composition, which is not the same as saying you know how to write lyrics. That's a lyricist. Or you know how to make the format for any musician at a recording studio. That's a session musician, and his role is to adapt, to arrange, to give a format. But musical composition is quite different from all those things because it integrates them into complex elements of theory and explains them to you really easily. So you need a very good composer to be a good teacher if you want to learn even a little bit. So I've been in this rig of composing for quite a long the half part of my life has been there. And so I don't think when I compose, I don't think, for example, about how many seconds I'll hold a listener's attention. I think about what inner state I want to awaken. It's totally secondary, it's totally irrelevant. What if you only have 1 second of attention of a person, 2-3 seconds of the attention span of a person, and the person stays there for the next 17 minutes? Does it make sense to create theories about how engaging with people? No. If we were to have a criterion on how the product must be focused, established, elaborated, then we will know how long it will take for you to make a song, and then you will know how long the engagement will last. And the person who doesn't want to engage with your concept, with your content, with your music, is free to say, I'm not interested. You don't need to catch that person, right? You don't need to rush things. So another important aspect here, I think, is once you're over the fear of death and the pain of birth, because if you think about it for a second, they complement each other. And I very often repeat this because I think I have memories from when I was born that when I think about those images, it invokes me situations that invokes horrible feelings inside me. That I want to have revenge, that I want justice to occur, that I found it incorrect, that I don't comprehend how that could happen that day. And because I'm so sensible, because I have a vivid imagination, because I have vivid memories of everything that happens to me, because I've been cleaning my mind purifying my mind for the past 12-15 years, I am like a sponge. Everything that goes into my mind, if it was water, gets recorded. And so I have the vivid memories and remember everything with every little detail. But once you're in this creates the certain phobia to your mother. If you have the pain of birth always in your mind and you say, I don't care about that noise, I don't care about being born, I don't care about whatever interruptions happened when I was coming here, it doesn't matter. It wasn't fair, and it was a maniac doing that intervention or interference patterns with sound systems, experimenting with antennas at the same time. And it was disfortunate, yes, but it was the way it was, and I can't change that. And so it complements with the fear of death. So much energy to contrast with anything that was that interference pattern, over the fear of death. You're scared, you want to have money, you want to have children, you want to write a book, you want to try a steeper hill to try, you want to find it. And it doesn't matter much if you don't capitalize correctly on it. If you want to write a book, it has to touch your soul. If you want to have children, you might probably want to be the person who's always drawing up verdicts, or simply the older brother and have a fuck around session together. Or if you truly want to find a steeper hill to try and jump from the third or fifth floor on a skate park, you don't want to impress anybody, even yourself. You just want to feel the experience of breathing air at such speed, at such height. And once you get over that fear, and you surpass the pain that creates, all the things that happened inside your mother when you were born, life starts to realize, or to form, or to shape something rather immaterial that drives you in a direction in which you will learn sooner or later, usually in the male anatomy is after 36 years old, that the body is not permanent. And so it's disappearing through the sand, piece by piece. It returns back to sand or soil or fire or water from wherever it came from, or from wherever you were going, or wherever you are. It will be back somewhere. And you will learn too that everything with form, everything that has form, shape, even a hit track with beautiful details, or a complicated story that expresses everything to cleanse, it is also temporary. What remains is our consciousness, as a thankful personal ritual with sound and music as its prophet. And I think about, what is that awareness that can hear me? There is an ocean of creative energy that manufacture oceans, manufacture soil, and therefore we see forests every day, and the thing happened millions of years before we were here. And there is an awareness that can listen to nature needs. If not, we wouldn't be able to reproduce, right? Because if the soil and the water cannot reproduce and have children and fruits, they will have never see seeds of trees which also reproduce and have flowers, and then have a process, and then from the flower comes something, and then from the something comes a process, and then from the process comes a fruit in every species. So there is something that awareness that hears to and listens to the needs of its creation, of its surrounding, and that is eternal. So DJ of what, because my tip here is to, before you upload your next track, ask yourself, am I creating for the ego with G, or am I creating for the echo of the soul, the ego of the soul, or the echo of the soul? And you don't need to run from breakers chaos just because it's trendy, or just because it's me, or just because it's you, if you're also a breaker DJ. I think that you can use that chaos as a lens to reveal the stillness beneath the noise. Imagine if every time you were to play a breaker song, you have to end up like this, and trembling, weak, and smelling. Smelling cocaine, because I truly disagree with substances, with everything that comes inside the mind to destroy the body is cancer. And so I label it as cancer. And so imagine if every time you were you wanted to play a breaker song, you have to smell cocaine, and you have to end up weak, smaller, and affected and trembling makes no sense, you know. So it's the contrasting logic can point to the stillness. I'm not saying you have to burn 600 calories every day because nobody can, or 500 calories because nobody can. It doesn't change anything if you do it for spiritual purposes. Like, for example, there are religions in the Middle East which they implement the Sufimasi concept, which is you exert extreme power on your human body and your human nature and your physical parts, to interact with that awareness that listens to you, to say thank you. You don't have a document right, with a list of petitions that you want to be fulfilled. No, you only want to say thank you, and that is the experience. And it changes from part to part. If it is on the heart, you're aiming at the electromagnetic center of your body, because remember that the brain uses cells called neurons that interact with each other for you to the symphony to perceive it in a context in which there is electricity. Is a tiny current of electricity that wouldn't even turn a stick candle. Yeah, but it's still present. There is a star basically. So this is not to tell you that physical strength must be your priority. It is my priority, and I have come to develop certain advanced level of practitioner, because I started in 2011 and I have never stopped ever since. And at the time I was burning 40 calories, 60 calories, 140 calories in 2 hours, and that's nothing compared to today. But it also teaches you the lesson that you don't need to be Hercules, the nothing. You can be a person. You can be a person and have your things and burn however many calories you have for whatever purposes you have. And if they are spiritual, better. If they are to transform yourself, that's what's important. You can inject all the steroids, all the anabolics, eat all the illegal gummies, all these things to fake musculature all the way up from 20 years old to 36 years old. But remember that it condemns you. It's a sentence. How do you say it in English? I don't know. How do you say in English when you condemn yourself to something? You throw the nuts on your own throat. When you throw, well, yeah, you're sentencing yourself. Yeah. You're sentencing yourself. You're condemning yourself to have to hold a clock, because remember that anabolics, and I have seen tons of DJs using anabolics, using steroids, using all these fake things, illegal market, open market of traffic of hormones or whatever it is called, that they inject and the clock starts backward, bro. In 2 days it is flaccid and you realize the time happens way quicker. It's dangerous and you will never recover from that. And so many people falls into that trap. But remember that the body is an opportunity. You will always exist. And if you already made the mistake of using the steroids and the anabolics and the things, and you realize now that it is too late, that you're 24 and it is too late to recover from that, it doesn't matter. Body will disappear anyway. I can tell you that. Body will disappear anyway. No matter how hard you pray. I've been burning 1,000 calories for the past 2 months, and yeah, in some way it's perfect. The mechanism is perfect, but other things kept failing. So I don't truly have any expectation, any secondary product that I want in return, because I understand now that maybe it is secondary. Maybe it doesn't matter how much strength you accumulate through healthy habits. If you have to go, you have to go. If you have a damage, you have a damage, and you have to accept that. You have to embrace that in order for you to live a calm and peaceful life. Fuck anything else, you know? And so don't fall into that trap. Don't believe that. Sorry, it's not like you are going to take your flaccid body to the other world, to the reign of the stars, or to the, I don't know, dark kingdom. You're not gonna take that with you, and you will take that lesson and you will laugh about it and say, haha, I fall into a trap, what an idiot I was, and now I changed and learned something else. And so the second tip that I want to share is that on stage you are not there to entertain, you're there to hold your terrain. And it might sound counterintuitive. For example, in a tour, in a world tour, how do you hold your terrain if you are the new one, if you are the invader one, if you will, Space Invaders? But it is with what you can contribute to the cosmos through those 2 hours of killing the sun inside you to be reborn and burning everything to give it all in the stage. And I feel that festivals very often sell youth, sell energy, sell excess as a product. But real power isn't in what you do with your body. That's the real weakness. I think real power is in what you hold with your presence. So I step on stage not as a performer, but as a modern instrument of a message of peace, of a message of liberation, of a message of strength, of a message of maybe Shabbat, maybe a mantra, maybe Sufi Masi, who knows. And if you already know my main channel, Kirtan Texting, I don't know if it is here below, but if you know that, maybe you have realized other elements that are also present here that we tend to ignore them because we tend to distract ourselves, because we have this tendency to drive where the ego needs to go rather than where we want to go. And the ego needs this, and then if the ego feels wrong, the mind drives through it, and controlling everything is quite a challenge, So it requires other things. But in being a modern instrument of a message, so my music can be my chant. My breaker is my chant sometimes. My breaker is that you see that religions need to explain the world to you as a poetic form, as a poetic expression, as a poetic conclusion, as a poetic, at least in Sikhi, it happens that way, that it needs you to be placed on a spiritual level that can embrace poetry, not a statement, like very vertical statement like in Christianism and Catholicism. It's totally different, and it needs certain part of you to understand, to have compassion, to have flexibility in conversations. And so to explain you something that is difficult to digest, which is the good and the bad, and have a moral conduct that gives you, certain criterion on a human behavior. Is not to say that what is bad in front of religion is always gonna be bad, and what's good is always gonna be good, and therefore you have a secret recipe that fixes everything in daily life. It's more as a reflection than a statement. In other religions, they tell you what is really bad and never reflect about it, because I already said that the 10 commandments are the 10 commandments. They are bad, period, end of story, never question them. But life is never about those sort of things. Life is always about being flexible, about having marriage with truth, and how much of a liar are you in front of your couple and your partner, And so I think that breakers sometimes reflect that side that I question very often, that I don't accept, that I don't embrace, that I consider either unjust, either ugly, either bad, either corrosive, either horrible, and reflect about it. And my shattered samples are diamond shards to build a window to the outside world. It doesn't say I want to be chaotic. It doesn't sing I want to be the volcano. It doesn't say any of those things. It's only a reflection, very often without words, because of that. and the words which can imply a healing process are somewhere else. I handled by somebody else outside of the room, outside of this city, outside of the country, outside of the continent, outside of the planet, outside of this galactic region, outside of many solar systems, outside of the universe, near the cosmos, So I don't worry much about it because they are here as an interpretation of enlightened people who have come to very, very closed conclusions, very closed reflections that you can experience in your health in daily life. So I don't need to jump or shout. I only need to be fully there. Because when you're in awareness, your music is too. And that awareness doesn't age. It doesn't matter if you are 20 or 60. What? No. The wind is gonna take this. It's gonna fall. If you hear a noise, because the wind is here, goes wind in every direction, and this is going to fall to the ground. And it doesn't matter that, because that awareness, it doesn't age, and sometimes we are sold the product of youth as the only one. And I have come to hear many men, funny enough, that women are conscious of their rights and the laws and defend their territory and their identity to have a bit of peace and calm for the processes they have to confront in their lives. But men don't. And sometimes I have come to horrible, or at least disappointing, conclusions and conversations in which they come, but what do you do in music after being 40? Now I'm like, it injures me a little. I must say that it injures me when they call me that I am too old to be playing music like mine, that nobody likes it, that is distorted, that is estrident, whatever. But I think that that awareness of what is wrong and what is good in my life doesn't age, and it doesn't matter if I am 16. The fact that I couldn't be enlightened at 16 doesn't mean that I'm not gonna spend my entire life searching for it, rather than being 20 and completely lost. Can also happen. Or completely destroyed, or even didn't surpass the 23, you didn't survive to see 23 years old. So it depends, but what transforms isn't in your appearance. It's the trust the universe. I believe it's the trust the universe pours into every second of sound. And if you're not being trusted, the universe and the stars to transform them into sound, into guidance. For example, in my case, I am a religious leader, so I have this beautiful opportunity to interpret a language, to interpret a process, to interpret a healing mechanism, to interpret medicine, to interpret the human body reactions from my own human experience, rather than from my ego as an academic on these many subjects, and deploy a message that resonates with people so naturally. And that's what's important to my life. That's what I do daily. Most people might think, how come you have a release daily? Monthly. How come you have so much discography? And it is not about doing things, it's about productivity. I don't finish a song that has taken me more than 2 hours. And for example, the Phantom of the Opera and all the End of the World series, all the songs are prepared in prayer sessions, in Kundalini Yoga, así super strict for the heart, for the magnetic field, for the force of will, for the abdomen. So many things that allow me to configure my mind and focus so much that at 2 hours I have the theme figured, render, end of story. Because if I am not productive, but I have a plan of 13 minutes a song, I will never finish it. Ask someone with my clarity, the clarity of mind that I had 15 years ago, and a person might say, but how can you accomplish such a project? And it becomes tricky. So I take always the good side of life and the bad side of life example, because the door to liberation is not in the moon, it's in the star. And when you take that opportunity to transform yourself, to transform the stars into sound, and take a guidance for yourself, maybe other people can benefit that from that too. In this case, it's more of a party, nobody benefits from it, and you might see people dancing. um, but if you as a DJ have not been trusted by the universe hasn't manifested in you that, hey, you're not ready to expose this, and then the ideas come to your mind, and then you say, oh, thank you, and then it says, no, I trust you, here are some more ideas, and then you say, oh, thank you, I have more ideas, and no, I trust you, and it becomes a cycle. If it is not, that is, I tell you, that is the theory of success that build upon which geometry is today, a science of distances, of measurements and tools through mathematics, is the same science that built the logic of money, is the same science that built the sexagesimal measurement of units that we use today to understand clocks, to understand months, is the same logic on which the entire human history has been built upon, and it's called the cycle of success, and is based on this antique Middle East wisdom, writings, opinions, criterions, conclusions, ideas that people were throwing at the time. And some people say, no, the Catholic tradition invented the 365 days shitty that every day celebrate Christmas. It's not. They didn't invent anything. In fact, when it was invented, they didn't include it in the Bible, though Julius Caesar was convincing the queen in Egypt to marry him, right? So Cleopatra was at the time with Julius Caesar because he wanted to invade Egypt, not because he wanted to make her fall in love. And she didn't realize that because she was, what, 16 years old, something like that. Or if she realized that and she was obsessed, or if she wanted revenge, or if she wanted a longer match. Who knows? Nobody will ever know. But at the time, geometry was already in place. Architecture was already benefiting from it. Agriculture was already benefiting from it. Finances were already benefiting from it. Whether other people invaded Babylon or not is to be studied, because there are some scholars, not academics, who say that Babylon never got destroyed. So it's up to a religious interpretation, not an academic intellectual debate. So and it holds much significance and meaning to science, in mathematics, in fact. And so that is when you are trusted, when you are given the gift of geometry about your ideas and how to construct, build, relate, and measure. You will see that there is always a margin of error, no matter how perfect your instrument is. Fuck this. No matter how perfect your instrument is, you will always notice a measurement of error that you can avoid. Else, you are not being trust the universe to your sound. And you will make mistakes and start complaining that creativity never makes mistakes and music can never be perfect and all musicians are bad musicians because everybody plays wrong their instrument. But to that I have to say that if you haven't been trusted by the universe, the stars, to transform them into sound, meaning to say that your music doesn't sound too firmly loaded into the light of your soul, please don't rush things. We are all in a cycle and we don't want to confront that shit in a big sound system where somebody is rushing things to get famous, right? People hate that, I hate that, and hopefully it will never change and people will only rely to the stars when they transform into sound because the universe trusts them, not because you are rushing things. It will happen. You will get that trust. You will be given the chance when you're ready. So you better start making points right now to have enough points when you find a checkpoint, because if you don't start today building your musical composition career, when are you going to be a successful DJ? A successful DJ is not using crossfader in perfect sync without autosync, because in fact autosync already exists. You don't need to fix nature, because that is the thing, that if you're not being given the chance right now, some people, or maybe you, start to try to fix the things, try to see problems. I cannot express, I cannot create, I don't know how to do this, I don't understand this. And you start to isolate the entire science behind it to fix problems that are imaginary problems that will never exist, so no matter how many times you solve them. Because no one can fix nature, and no one ever has. No one ever will. No matter how hard I pray, no matter how hard in your religion they pray. And to that I have to say that maybe the praying purpose is going the wrong direction. Maybe we need to drive the energy of the food we eat to our mind instead of to our stomach. Because when you drive it to your mind, you have the correct balance of flavor in your mind. Your brain doesn't start to rely on addiction. You know that these people who have food addiction, and they can't see it, and their stomach can relate to their brain and to their mind to actually process, assimilate, and evolve. Instead is food addiction. So maybe we need to drive the energy of the food we eat to our mind in a correct balance of flavors, and the energy of the purpose of fixing imaginary problems to the heart, and see how many lies you can tell yourself, and see how much of a liar you are with yourself. And don't ever tell anybody, don't ever make a video blog on this. Just write to yourself, and once you're over that, when you are free of that, you can share it with other people like me. I am probably, this happened to me 5 years ago or more. More. I'm old. Many years ago, regardless. And then it happened to me, and I'm here talking about it. But it's just so that you don't interrupt the flow. And to that, I think that I want to say that the next time you face a crowd, don't think about delivering a great show. You can think about offering a moment of connection. And here I want to insist, the word is connection. Connection, a connection that is stronger than any current, more reliable than any source, more reliable than the fruit of nature phenomena. You see, what I was chaining a little with what I was saying earlier, but you know, the oceans, when they mix with soil, they create something that creates a membrane, that creates a tissue, that creates a seed, that creates a small process, and from the small process a flower, and from the flower a small process, and then a fruit that is as tiny, has no taste, has nothing, and then it's bigger, beautiful, and abundant. And maybe when you think about a moment of connection that relies on the universe, for example, some people might say, why not to rely on cancer for everything you're saying? And it's like, yeah, it's the guy that says that Suno Pro is the best opportunity for everyone. And a connection that uses nature phenomena to connect with your mind, not with your ego, not with what you do, not with your studies, not with your profession, not with your pocket and your money and your personal belongings, or your house or your family. No, with your mind, to purify your mind, to cleanse your mind, to experience it totally transparent. So with your consciousness of every choice you take in daily life, with the essence you place into every thought you use inside your mind. Like whether I choose to pick this, or I don't know, pick this, and why am I going to pick one of both if I had to choose one of both, right? And what is the lie and what is the truth that I'm telling myself when I choose one of both? And this in daily life, and it is a challenge, and it creates a heavy burden because you start to accumulate lies that you don't want to hold anymore. Lies that don't define your identity. Lies that don't help at all. Lies that might injure you if you realize them. And you probably might need to ignore them to not get injured because of the fear, because of the phobia, because so many things that we talked at the beginning. So the essence that you place into every thought in your music, the essence that you place into every note, into every movement, into every direct motion, indirect motion, contrary motion, opposite motion, complementary motion, when you are using harmony, I don't know, you use it inside your mind, and then you are conscious of that essence, not of any product. And when you connect with that, you are connecting from your mind with what transcends from your identity. And the last one is your brand isn't your image. It's your fidelity to what's essential. And of course, sometimes people say, nah, but how come you have fidelity to your partner? It's like, I'm not gonna bother on that. I'm not gonna mention anything on that. I think that today is a different day, and feelings are feelings and whatever. But you can also remain with your fidelity to what's essential. So I feel that sometimes in the music industry, on a big league, in a big ring, many believe that to grow, they must reinvent themselves every 6 months. New photo, new photo shoot, new look, new story, new creativity, new direction, new inspiration, which is not bad, it's not wrong, and it doesn't injure anybody. But I believe the soul doesn't need rebranding. It needs to be cleansed of something that interrupts that connection with what transcends. So, well, just to clarify that I'm giving this example because I don't reinvent myself every month. Imagine yourself, how would you reinvent yourself every month if you haven't even experienced the earlier one? This is a totally different process, an exceptional process in which I have spent 10 years recording the music, writing the music, and having it stored somewhere else to be deployed later, to be distributed later, to be sold later, and I never thought about it. And then one day somebody come and said, why don't you distribute all that music? You just have to schedule it to Spotify and to Apple Music. Do you like symphonic? And I said, like, well, yeah, let's try it. And then the music ended up scheduled every month, but it is not me rushing things every month, because otherwise it will be impossible. If you don't rush and move it, you won't get a product finished in 1 month. So sometimes I use gloomy artifices and very creepy symphonic sounds. If you hear the symphony, the opera, whatever it is called, the one with the purple picture, it is very creepy, and it might finish you, right? And it is a sound sculpture that I use as audio images in certain videos of my imagination. Not as a style choice, but as an act of respect to the truth I see, I feel, I perceive, that surrounds me, that I think requires liberation force and liberation strategies. Yeah, more like, I think this is what's wrong. The whole purple cover stories are wrong, and something has to happen. And then the enlightenment came to me, and it was like, no, nothing can change, nothing has to change. And then I passed through a horrible depression for like 7 months, like nothing can change, nothing will ever change. And then when once I was ready and changed my disposition and my attitude and I came to a conclusion, and the enlightenment came again and said, something has to end, something has to finish. And if you don't let go of things, if you don't liberate from attachment, if you don't liberate from materialism, from describing the world with words rather than with emotions or feelings that can be good or bad, that you can purify or cleanse, then it's not gonna go away. It's always gonna be present, and it's always gonna be a pain in the ass, because you cannot fix it, and you will never understand that you can fix it, because you will always be blind and distortion and the problems that surrounds us. So it requires a strategy for liberation. It requires a force of liberation. So, and I thought of that because what matters doesn't move. I cannot change myself from here to there in 2 months, in 1 month, in 6 months, I don't know, to reinvent myself in terms of branding, because I will never change its position. It will remain there. So my brand isn't a logo or a clever bio. I have changed my bio. For example, once Artemis published their, oh, wow, you're early, something like that in their bio. And I ended up placing in my bio like, I'm so clever, I'm early. And yeah, I'm part of you because I'm early. Because I was in my world of thoughts, and I was early. Yeah, I'm also early too. Yeah, early. And and then I ended up saying the one with the WhatsApp, the one with unfolding truth, and so many exceptional bios, if you will, exceptional or crazy, at least, at minimum crazy. And the logo has been always, instead of a brand, like a mirror. There was a time in which you will always see graffitis, people writing graffitis over the logo. And it was very funny because at a certain point it became, between quotes, so chaotic that somebody will write a graffiti over that thing, and somebody might come with the same tone picture, same tone color of the background to to write the background over the thing that was written over it. It became interesting. So it's not a brand necessarily. I think it's the alignment between two things that can be important. One is, for me, for you can be different, and it depends on your evaluation. And if it depends on your evaluation, honestly, it might depend on the results that you obtain from your evaluation. But for my case, it is who I am in silence and what sounds through the speakers. If you ask me who I am in silence, I am a highly spiritual person. I don't rely on anything material. I rely on my mind, on my spirit, on my soul, on my telekinesis, on every esoterical experience, divination, tarot, reading, writing. I never rely into materialism. I almost never solve a problem with money. And I'm not saying, I have my modes, if you will, in my position to have certain economical, if you will, accommodation. I'm not per se a millionaire right yet, but I'm not in economical or financial problems, so I have certain stability for whatever reason that something must have gone right. But I very almost never solve a problem with money because I rely on myself, and to rely on myself means to rely on my mind and my spirit and my peace and my truth and the things that describe my identity. But of course, you will have to describe your identity to know if you want to rely on that or if you want to cure or change or heal something. And what sounds through the speakers in terms of breakcore is truly different, and it has become something that doesn't describe me anymore. It describes problems, labyrinths, enemies, obstacles, monsters, things that I want to destroy, or at least to place near the sun so that they disappear. And you as a DJ, you don't let yourself be trapped by the pressure to stay relevant. You need to stay true to the truth that lives within you. Because in a world starving for authenticity, your greatest act of resistance is not pretending. Or better yet, is stop pretending. And the world is starving for authenticity because sometimes, not every time, not every day, not in every trend, but sometimes on TikTok, or sometimes on, well, I haven't seen that much on Instagram, but sometimes on TikTok, we look the same because we do the same dancing, short, fucking around thing that is so funny. And at a certain point, if you think about it too seriously, if you give it too much importance, you will starve for authenticity. And you might be developing a strategy about how not to lose your identity. That identity, I define it as discipline, the interaction, the daily interaction, the daily connection process, the daily intent of connect with your esoteric essence, presence, rather than searching for money, searching for more jobs, searching for more success. You have what you have. And my friends are the Gurdwara ensemble. They are wealthier than I am. They have much more things to do, more responsibilities that reward them in a more, if you will, in a bigger economical sense than mine, if you will. That's because they have more experience. That's because they have more time. That's because they have more ideas. And I'm not complaining about it. I have what I have. And if you go to their house, they're really generous because they have a lot. And they're not from a poor family. Their parents and their elders, they all were that successful. And some people say, no, the Jews have plenty of cash. It's true, because there is theory, techniques, strategy to approach it in a spiritual way, so that it doesn't impact you when it changes. It can change abruptly to wealth and success, or change abruptly to something else. And so, but it doesn't bother me, and I'm not trying to change it, and I'm not trying to move and flow with it to discover how it's going to make and how it's going to work and what its functions are. It's not. In the end, this isn't about break or any other thing, or techno or house, or or being successful in stage, or being successful in the music market. I think it is about whether your music leaves a trace, or if it leaves just interference on a connection process. Because let's be real, the music market today, because it is digital, 2003 was the implosion factor in which the catastrophic bomb exploded and the industry became digital overnight. 2003, we are almost 20 years from it, but it came with so many challenges. I'm not against it, but I consider there is too much music, too much product, that it to be unique and to be genuine is the only solution. Because if there are 7 bands that all play the same cover, they became only noise, and the algorithm doesn't reward them, and the algorithm doesn't give them importance because they are all the same. The algorithm, in its immense wisdom and digital capabilities, has an intelligence inside it that might decide, wow, this sounds crazy enough. And then, for example, I love the algorithm of YouTube because it always suggests me things that I would like. And then, for example, it had never suggested me you will love this reggaeton song because I hate it. I don't feel comfortable with it. I hate the experience. I feel strange, and it's like, no, liberate me. I don't want to stay here. The vibe is so dark. I hate it. No, um, it always suggests me things that I will love, and very often hits the needle. But when we talk about algorithms in a more digital realm, um, there's too much distortion for that, or interference at minimum, for those softwares. And even if the cover song was really well interpreted, it might misconceive them and say, no, it's not, this interference. And so the point here is composition, and whether it leaves a trace or just interference, or even worse in the case of DJs, because there is so many DJs addicted to these steroids and anabolics and gummies and whatnot to inflate their muscles, and because they believe that the body represents something. Um, because of that, it is true that most DJs are interference, are an obstacle, and most DJs have to change for the better. They can't touch any lower. But my message here is to go upward, because when there is a card that is very beautiful in another. I have two versions of the tarot, of the Egypt tarot. One is extremely beautiful because it states that the Nine of Swords, it represents murder. When you have a Nine of Swords, it's because your life is in danger, and the picture represents the act of murder, and it represented with 9 spades going in the same direction towards a core, a center. And that center states something like, when you are in a 9 of swords situation, you only have to think of swimming, because you're already in the water. And once you're in the water and you touch the bottom, don't worry. Don't worry if your life is in danger. Don't worry if anything changes abruptly. You cannot go any lower. You can only go upward. So don't stop. You can only grow. You can only get stronger. You can only be better. So my reflection to any DJ is always that, do you truly need to fit with trending songs that are not your genuine identity, your genuine relationship to music? Do you really need that? Because if you need that, you're diseased. And this is a reflection and an invitation to think whether you are a distraction of your own creativity that could be even more interesting of what you're using from someone else, if you were to give it that much importance, and it was so important to you that you no longer care about what other creative people do. You care that yours fulfills you. And whether you are that obstacle to yourself, or whether you are an invitation to wake up. So the conflict is real between wanting to please and wanting to be faithful. Some people say that social media profiles remove the faith intentionally. I don't think it is intentional. I think it removes it because you get distracted, because you scroll to the infinites of hell. Right? You scroll for hours and hours and have content for hours and hours. But I don't think it is intentional. I don't think the human being is bad per se. Nobody has the right to make such affirmations. I really disagree with that. I deeply respect other religions, but I disagree deeply with that, because it's not the human is bad per se and has to be corrected because of all their sins. That's not possible. Don't be that cruel. And it's a conflict between trying to seem eternal and remembering that you already are. So I think you should keep spinning, learning, keep mixing, keep breaking beats. And you need to do it from stillness. You need to do it from inner connection. You need to do it from the certainty that What doesn't change in itself is something that can help you transform truly. If it doesn't change in itself, like the sun never changes, the sun is there, it's always warm, it's always yellow. There are others which are always blue, which are always there, which are always warm, and this is this and will never change, and is materialistic, and so I can't help I can find much help in it. But there are other things that seem a little too in a vegetable state, but that might bring some thoughts and some light into your thoughts as to what can help you transform truly, or if you need truly to put your hand inside to interfere with the process and fix things and make it transform you immediately overnight because you have the need. Yeah. When I say please don't rush it, I mean it because nature authorizes every human to interact through sound as an act of trust. May the universe and its regions be kind to you.